Every year we see complete afterthoughts like Michael Wilson, Kenneth Gainwell, and others come out of nowhere and help win fantasy championships. So who's it going to be in 2026? Well, I got 5 players that I think are insanely underrated right now as we head into the 2026 season. Let's start at QB with Tyler Shough of the New Orleans Saints. You look at it from weeks 8 to week 17 when he was named the starter, he was a QB 13 in fantasy football. But you look at it from weeks 13 to week 18, he was actually the QB 8. He had 30 or more rushing yards in 3 of his last 5 games, so he does give you a little bit of rushing here. Plus, he had 4 carries inside the 5-yard line, which was half of all the teams inside the 5 carries over the stretch where he was the starter. So he gives you potential for rushing touchdowns as well. Plus, having Kellen Moore is actually a cheat code for quarterbacks. Go way back to 2019 when the Cowboys made Kellen Moore their offensive coordinator. Dak was the QB2 that year. 2020, Dak got hurt. 2021, Dak bounced back as the QB7, and then in 2022, he got hurt again. 2023, took over as the Chargers offensive coordinator. Justin Herbert was the QB11 in points per game that year. 2024, as the Eagles offensive coordinator, Jalen Hurts was the QB3 through week 15 before getting hurt in week 16, but of course we know what he did in the playoffs, went on to win a Super Bowl MVP. Tyler Shough right now is currently being ranked, when I look at like early, 2026 rankings, not even as a top 20 quarterback, despite how good this guy was down the stretch, despite having Kellen Moore, despite the Saints likely doing things that are going to help the offense out. I think Tyler Shough is going to be that, late round afterthought not even late round, like undrafted afterthought QB in fantasy leagues that ends up being a viable week in out starting quarterback. Kind of like what we saw with a guy like Jacoby Brissett this year. Not that Jacoby Brissett started from week 1, but that guy was a guy you could just plug into your lineup every week and have no worries about. I think that's going to be Tyler Shough, but he's going to do it from week 1. And then at tight end, Theo Johnson, I think, is ready to break out. He's entering year 3, which is typically a prime breakout year for tight ends. He's in this Giants offense. You look at it in games last year that both he and Jackson Dart played in. He was a tight end 14. He averaged 10 points per game, and he was 5th among all tight ends in end zone targets. And that's what I love about him with this matchup with John Harbaugh, because you look at Mark Andrews the last 2 years. 2 years ago, this guy had 11 touchdowns, was a monster in fantasy. Okay, last year, only had 4 touchdowns, but you know what he did have? 10 end zone targets, which was the 3rd most among all tight ends, behind only Trey McBride and Brock Bowers in 2025. This offense is going to utilize the tight end, and Theo Johnson is a good tight end. He had over 70 targets last year despite missing games, despite not having Jackson Dart the whole season. Let's also not forget Malik Nabers still on a crutch, and it doesn't sound like he's really all that close to getting, on his way to recovery. I don't think Malik Nabers is going to be out there week 1. Malik Nabers might start the season on the PUP list. Obviously, it's early. We don't know. There's a chance that Malik Nabers is not ready to go week 1. That means they're going to lean on Theo Johnson even more here. Theo Johnson is a good pass-catching tight end. He's a talented tight end. And now he's entering this year 3 breakout type of year. I think we're going to see Theo Johnson break out here in year 3. And again, when I look at like way too early 2026 rankings, and I looked at various sites, I'm not just picking on one site here, he's not being ranked inside the top 20 tight ends anywhere that I have seen. I think Theo Johnson is going to be like this year's, Harold Fannin or Juwan Johnson, just Dalton Schultz, like just complete afterthought at the tight end position, who ends up being an every week starter, helping teams win fantasy championships. And real quick, before I get to the last 3 players on this list, let me just ask a big favor. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, but you're enjoying the content that we put out for you during the season or here in the off season, take 1 second, hit that subscribe button. Greatly appreciate it. All right, let's move on to running back now. And, the tea leaves are saying that Breece Hall is probably not going to be a New York Jet next year. So that should open the door for Braylon Allen. Now, it would be a Jet move to franchise tag Breece Hall, which would be insane to, franchise tag a running back and pay him a ton of money and have this huge cap hit when you have needs all over the roster. So I'm going to give the Jets the slight benefit of the doubt here and say they are going to do the smart thing and let Breece Hall walk. And if that happens, that's going to open the door for Braylon Allen. This guy is still very young here, only 22 years old right now. He's 6'1", 235 pounds. This guy can handle all the carries you want to give him. He's also a capable pass catcher. No, he's not a pass catcher like he's not going to be a Devon Achane, Christian McCaffrey, or even probably a Breece Hall as a pass catcher, but he'll give you enough in the receiving game. But what I really love here is the touchdown potential. He will be the goal line back here. And you got to think, like, I know it's the Jets. You're saying, well, how many chances are they going to have to score? That's a fair question. That's a totally fair question. But look, what if they go out and bring in Kyler Murray, like they trade for Kyler Murray, or, you know, maybe a guy like Tua, like they go trade for Tua, or, you know, worst case, maybe they go get a Mac Jones type of guy, somebody who's at least serviceable at the quarterback position and can make this offense at least capable of giving them touchdown chances. I think as long as they do something like that, Braylon Allen is going to be completely forgotten. I mean, he has been completely forgotten in fantasy right now because, again, when I look at these rankings, he's not even ranked among the top 40 running backs. This guy could legitimately be the RB1 for the New York Jets, which I know isn't like the most exciting thing, but we're talking about an RB1 for an NFL team that should at least be a below average offense. Maybe not the worst offense next year. How about a below average offense? That alone is going to be worth something. And for a running back going outside the top 40, that would be an absolute steal if you're getting this guy in your drafts. And I can't believe with the way Parker Washington finished the season, people aren't ranking this guy higher. I think they're a little nervous about Travis Hunter, but you look at it from weeks 9 to week 17. Remember, Travis Hunter got hurt in practice heading into week 9. He was the wide receiver 15 in fantasy. And if you include the week 18 game and the playoff game, he had 7 or more targets in all but 3 of those games. Liam Cohen loves to use a slot wide receiver. Remember, 2 years ago in Tampa Bay, Chris Godwin was having one of his best seasons ever. Maybe his best season ever before he had that injury. Liam Cohen is going to use the slot wide receivers. Now, that was the plan for Travis Hunter, but I think the plan is going to change a little bit for 2 reasons. Number one, Travis Hunter coming off that major ACL injury. You don't really want to rush this guy back. But number 2, with the emergence of Parker Washington, it gives the Jags some luxuries here to be like, okay, we don't necessarily need to lean on Travis Hunter as our slot wide receiver because Parker Washington was great in that role. And it's easy to not realize because Parker Washington was not a high-end prospect, was not a highly touted draft pick or anything. But last year was only his 3rd year in the league. He's not even 24 years old yet. This guy could still develop. He could still get better. And the GM of the Jags has kind of hinted at the fact that Travis Hunter is going to be used more as a defensive back than a wide receiver. He did say he's still going to play both ways, but the emphasis is going to be on defensive back as that's more where the Jags have a need. And again, with Parker Washington there, it gives them the luxury to not need Travis Hunter as much at wide receiver. And again, like I said, despite his good finish last year, despite the good season he had, I have not seen this guy ranked inside the top 50 wide receivers anywhere right now. Really? You're telling me there are 49 wide receivers that are going to be better than Parker Washington next year? I mean, look, maybe, but I'd rather just take a chance on Parker Washington in this Liam Cohen offense in that slot role. And especially like if we hear like Travis Hunter is, behind schedule or whatever, is not going to be playing much wide receiver, Parker Washington is going to shoot up draft boards. Would not shock me if this guy is being picked as like a top 35, top 30 wide receiver come August. And then finally, maybe it's finally time for Cokeheads to unite. Now, I don't want to go crazy here just because he had that awesome playoff game, and I'm not just overreacting to that. Let's actually look beyond just a big playoff game, because if you're just going by a big playoff game, I'm going to point you to a guy named Gabe Davis. But let's look at Jalen Coker last year. You look at it from week 7 to 12. Remember, he missed the first 6 weeks with that injury. From week 7 to 12, he didn't have more than 4 targets in any of those games. But then weeks 13 through that playoff game, he had more than 4 targets in all but 2 games. Bryce Young likes to target his slot wide receivers. Xavier Legette, I'm sorry, he's not going to be it. He's just not going to be a thing, I think, at this point. Also with Tatora McMillan there, taking, pressure off of him. Like, the defenses are going to put more emphasis on McMillan. That is going to leave Coker free more often in that slot role in this Panthers offense that utilizes the slot with a quarterback like Bryce Young, who likes to target the slot. And again, like Parker Washington, this is still a very young player. He's entering year 3. This is typically breakout year for wide receivers. Like last year was Parker Washington's 3rd year. Why can't Jalen Coker have a Parker Washington type leap himself in 2026? I think he can. And this guy, again, when I look at these 2026 rankings, obviously it's very early, but he's barely being ranked inside the top 60 wide receivers. The top 60 wide receivers, really, like, if you're a warm body and you're on the field, you could be a top 60 wide receiver. Jalen Coker being completely slept on headed into 2026, but it could absolutely be a breakout year for Cokeheads. All right, I know we're still a long ways away from the fantasy season, but I'm still going to be bringing you a video every single week. If you missed any of them, you can find them in our playlist right here.